Ah, what a beautiful day taking a stroll down Monument Avenue. But Mommy, who's that a monument of? He looks different from the rest. Well, that's Arthur Ashe, sweetie. There's a very interesting story about this monument. Tell it, tell it! Well, the Civil War came to an end in 1865 when the Confederates surrendered to the Union. After the war, during the antebellum era of Reconstruction, Southerners were feeling pretty low in spirit. Virginians wanted to honor one of their most important Confederate heroes, General Robert E. Lee. So by 1890, Richmond had created a monument in Lee's honor. The project had gained such extreme Southern support that over 100,000 people gathered in Richmond for the unveiling of the Lee Monument. The success of the Lee statue, symbolically healing the South's wounded pride, prompted the erection of 4 more statues, each commemorating a Confederate hero. These heroes include J.E.B. Stuart, Jefferson Davis, Thomas Stonewall Jackson, and Matthew Fontaine Maury. Each statue contributes to what is today known as Monument Avenue. With these recognized Confederate heroes, Monument Avenue has come to represent and preserve Southern pride and tradition. Mom, you haven't told me about Arthur Ashe yet. I'm getting there. Decades after each of these monuments had been finalized, on February 6, 1993, Richmond lost its own world-famous tennis star and educator, Arthur Ashe. A native Richmonder, Ashe was forbidden as a child from playing on the segregated courts of Byrd Park. But Mommy, that's where I play. Yes, and he wasn't allowed to play there because he was black. Yet he later ascended to #1 in the world rankings, won the U.S. Open in 1968 and Wimbledon 7 years later. Arthur Ashe brought recognition and honor to his hometown, not only by being the first ever black man to win Wimbledon, but also through his work as an educator of HIV awareness and as a speaker against racism, which he had experienced firsthand throughout his life. It comes as no surprise, then, that Richmond would want to commemorate Arthur Ashe as one of their own, with a monument placed on Monument Avenue. The strong sense of regional tradition inherent with Monument Avenue became evident as Southerners united in their resistance against the addition of an Ashe monument. But Mommy, why would they not want a monument if he was such a great man? Well, people criticize the idea of an Ashe monument for different reasons. You know how Uncle Joe's family has lived in Richmond for centuries on what used to be a tobacco plantation? Yeah. Well, Uncle Joe believed that a monument commemorating a black man would corrupt the purity in the avenue's preservation of the Old South, and many other Southerners felt this way too. But that doesn't make sense to me, Mommy. He seems like the most deserving man for a monument out of all the other guys. Well, you might agree with the opinions of many non-localers, who thought Ashe's achievements as an African American, an athlete, and a human being were too great to be displayed on Monument Avenue, and that he would be devalued in placing his statue in the company of his historical oppressors. There were also people who supported the creation of the Ashe Monument, thinking of this monument as a sort of social healing for the South. They simply saw Ashe as another great Richmonder, and it would only be fair to give him equal and appropriate recognition for exhibiting similar traits of courage and leadership as the other men commemorated on this avenue. So the supporters won then, right? Yes, after a 7-hour public hearing where 170 people registered to speak, and after the Richmond City Council unanimously approved construction of the monument, in 1996, the Arthur Ashe Monument was unveiled as a part of Monument Avenue. Wow, that's an interesting story. Look, here comes my best friend Tommy. Aw, Tommy. Mom, I'm glad that they built the Arthur Ashe Monument.